welcome back to this episode. My name's Jennifer, and thank you for joining me this time. So, this time we're going to talk about when you are ready to make a move. We've talked in earlier episodes this season about getting support and what that looks like, and how it usually doesn't look like anything we think, when it usually isn't anything we want, and all the things we kind of have to deal with that go along with being with other people. I think of something a coach said to me one time and continues to say to me, that like, let the people be the people. So for the rest of the season, we're letting the people be the people, and we're going to focus on what we are dealing with internally as we decide to go forward listening to our still small voices. So this episode, it's about when you're ready to make a move. So this is when you know that you've got something that you need to do, whether it's going to be for the positive or for the negative, usually a mixture of both, right? It's never usually just that cut and dry. And there are times that sometimes maybe you want to do it and maybe you don't want to do it. But at this point, the pain of staying the same is much more than making a change, whatever that voice has told you to do. So you're at the moment where you know you got to do something about it. Now, what do you do? And I think of this a lot of ways as you're usually one of two types of people. Either you're someone who goes very slow and methodically, or as what I've done a lot in the past is like, let's just make the decision and burn it all down and then see what happens and sift through the rubble. So there are two kind of ways you can go about this. One is not better than the other. Depending on the situation, I think both of these ways of doing things are just as valuable. So I want to talk today about kind of the pros and the cons and things to think about if you're thinking of going kind of more slowly, methodically, making a phase out and what that requires. Or if you want to go quick and, as I say, burn it all down and see what happens, we're going to talk about the positives and negatives of that as well. So let's start first talking about doing things slowly or methodically or scheduled or in a way that kind of makes it drip, drip, drip to fill up that glass rather than just like, let's pour the whole thing in there. So usually when you're looking to go slow, you kind of already know that, burning it all down is not what you need to do. It's going to make your head spin. It's going to make you stressed out. So you've got a tendency, either you want to go slow or you want to go fast. So if you're going slower, again, you usually know that trying to go fast is just too much for you. There's a lot of positive things about going slow. And since my tendency tends to be just burn it all down and see what happens, I have been learning and trying to appreciate the aspects of going more slowly. So a lot of the pros of going slowly, just again, more palatable, not as much stress, not as much, things making your head spin and trying to figure out what's going on. And with that, it's the ease of not having to change a lot of things. And that can make you feel safer and more secure as you make the change. It can also give you positive feedback to reinforce that making this change, however slow or small, you are doing it a step at a time, is the way you want to go. And it helps also as well going slow. You can make decisions one at a time and you can make them more slowly because you're not trying to change everything out from under you. And again, I can't reiterate that further sense of support and trust as you make the little changes, that validation that comes as you go little by little and you see all the steps behind you and you affirm to yourself over and over that, yes, like this is the right decision. I'm on the right path. So there are wonderful, wonderful aspects to going slowly. Again, I'm trying to learn them. I'm doing better in my years. So, but there are also some cons to this method. Though you are easing into things and that can make you safer, more secure, it might add just as much stress to you, trying to maybe hold two opposing viewpoints or two opposing lives, or just, when you're not congruent with yourself or if something's going on, that can be almost just as more stress sometimes, I think, as burning it all down and seeing what happens. It can also be frustrating if you are looking for faster results or if you want something to happen faster. Taking that time, again, can cause more stress and anxiety when maybe there wouldn't otherwise be there. The other thing is sometimes, and this is why I tend to not go slow, this is not the right reason, but I feel like sometimes if you're going slower, you're kind of hiding from what you need to do. And I think we all know, like, the minute we do that, whether we are kind of telling ourselves that we need to go slow when we're afraid to go faster, or we're afraid to do the thing, or if it is a valid reason. And I think it can work even if you are hiding from yourself. I've done this as well. There are many times in my life I've probably went too slow on a lot of things because I've been hiding from myself, and I've acknowledged that as I've gone through it, and I've just dealt with that stress of it and understanding that that's what I was doing to myself. It is way easier to see it that you are hiding from yourself when you are in the middle of it. Looking back, I have found that I get frustrated at myself from hiding, but I also know that that's part of the process. So now let's talk quickly about burning it all down and seeing what happens. This is my comfort zone. It probably shouldn't be my comfort zone, but it is my comfort zone. I just very much am somebody who just makes a decision and I don't want to think about it once the decision is made. I just want to move on from it. So for quickly, if you're going to rip off the Band-Aid, as I say, instead of pulling it little by little, the pros of this, it's a decision. It's fast. There's no worrying about when to make certain decisions. You just make the decision and it's done. The end. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to decide anything else anymore. The decisions are done. That's the pro. That's not the only pro, but I want to talk about the cons and kind of talk about how there might be some pros and the cons. So with the cons, you've usually sometimes got to deal with the fallout of, as I say, burning it all down. The people, the places, the finances, the things, depending on what you're doing. Immediately when you make the change, and usually for some time thereafter, as that change is continuing and people are seeing what is happening, either the destruction or the growth, depending on how they're seeing it. And there is also, with doing it quickly, there could be a strong sense of dissonance and vertigo with such a quick change. There's the pain of ripping off the Band-Aid, and then there's the continual pain of slowly pulling off the Band-Aid. So it depends on how you feel about extreme pain really all up front or little drips of pain there along the way. I think about this in a lot of our lives, how sometimes things happen outside our control, and sometimes we're like, could we just finish and get this over with, or it's just too much. So again, thinking about it with what you have capacity for on any given day or time, as we talk about it. Now, the other pro to this is, some people just prefer to just get it all done and deal with it that way. They would rather see the decisions after the first decision than trying to make little decisions to get them to a certain point. So again, it could be a pro to just rip it off and hurt and deal with the fallout. It might not. Again, you have to think about what works best for you. So as I've said, I'm kind of a fan of like blowing it all up and seeing what happens. I've been known to do that many, many times in my life, much to the dismay and frustration of my friends and family. It's kind of become a running joke that I haven't blown up my life in about 10 years. So like, what's wrong? Or is she gotten old? Or is she just tired? Which may be any one of those things. But I will say that there's a lot of times that I have blown up my life in some ways. And looking back, I wish I hadn't done it that way. I wish I had maybe gone a little bit more slowly. I'm not sure I was wired to do that, but looking back, I would have preferred that I was. I'm very good about making a declaration and getting rid of like physical stuff or like things or ideas or, commitments, volunteer and such out of my life when it's done. I have found though that sometimes like I kind of burn it all down and then I kind of have to go back and be like, oh yeah, I changed my mind. That's not ideal, and I have not enjoyed that. And they're minimal in the grand scheme of things. So it's been uncomfortable. So now I have found a better way of kind of making a blow up, burn it all down without actually doing it. So in my mind, I have blown it up. It is done. It is gone. But at the same time, I have made a plan to the outside world to slowly phase it out. And that makes it easier that if I were to come back with it later, it just helps keep with that awkwardness. People are not okay with you like cutting things out and then adding back in, understandably, and it makes sense. But I think we also hopefully continue to get used to like, that's just the way life is. Things happen, things change, people change. It is still baffling to me that we do not understand that. Here we are, 2024, and that like everybody's life can change in a dime, and maybe we can add things back later when we want. So on the other hand, there have been a lot of times where I've moved way too slow, way too slowly. I can think of ending my marriage being one of those. I should have ripped that Band-Aid off 10 years prior. I didn't. And looking back, I probably put myself through a lot more pain and agony than I should have. But at the time, I do know that that was the way I had to do it, and that was the way I need to do it. So I can understand and see it from both ways why you may want to either rip the band-aid off or slowly tug it off and put some lotion on and take a shower and then pull it again. And so you've just got to think, as I always say, and I try to tell myself regularly, you just got to think about what works for you at a given time. One day may be slow, another day may be quick, and maybe it changes within the hour. I find that as well. But I have found, again, maybe it is old age, who knows, maybe it is wisdom of living, that for me, I have to make the decision quickly, but the actual doing of the decision usually takes a bit longer than I would like. I still have a craving every once in a while to just light a match and see what happens. But I also know that that's not necessarily healthy for me right now at this time of life. But man, if you are feeling a chance to burn it all down and that's what you're going for, like, more power to you. I know the power and the peace in that. So just wanted to give you some things to think about, especially as we're heading into this holiday season. And I'm actually recording this the day before the American election. So things to think about, and how everybody's comfort level is as things either change really slowly or really fast, and many of them we may or may not like depending upon the situation. So just keeping that in mind, like we keep everything in mind about the positives and the negatives and the dark sides of things as we make our decisions, as we're listening to ourselves and the outside world to try to cobble together this thing that I guess we call our lives here on Earth. So thanks so much for joining me this time. I will be back in 2 weeks with, oh my gosh, I think it'll be like the third to last episode. And in that episode, we are going to talk about, after we've made the decision of either going slowly or quickly and what that looks like, dealing with that fallout. If you've ripped off the band-aid, or dealing with that fallout with smaller decisions or little things along the way. So I'll see you then. If you want more, please subscribe and head over to my website, listeningtothestillsmallvoice.com, where I'm publishing blog posts every other week that supplement this season's theme and episodes. Sign up for the email list to join our small but mighty group doing what we can to listen to the still small voice. See you next time.